Covering the islands of the Bahamas, ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight.
This portion of the news is brought to you by McDonald's. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
Good evening and welcome to the Bahamas Tonight, the National Report. I'm Keishla Adderley. Thanks for joining us. Topping the news tonight, Eleutherians can expect a big boost for their economy as a multi-million-dollar resort development takes shape there. Now, this means jobs and other spin-off opportunities for residents. Today, Prime Minister the Right Honorable Perry Christie led a tour of the Cove Resort in Gregory Town. Among those accompanying him were Tourism Minister Obi Wilshcombe and State Investments Minister Kalis Roll. Now, the property's owner is Sidney Torres, a hotelier out of New Orleans. He says he has big plans for the 32-acre land where already many are employed.
We're employing about 150 Bahamians through all different settlements, not just Gregory Town, through Hatchet Bay, you name it, Current, all the way through. And this is a project that's going to go on for a few years. We have 50 new cottages that we will have upon opening in November.
Now, rather impressed by what he saw, Prime Minister Christie says it's important to support such ventures. He said the property has been around for some time and many investors expressed interest, but Torres was the one with the right plan.
So I have been involved with people who have bought this property, sold this property, bought this property, sold this property, never making it a success. And I would come here and sit with them. And so when I saw the Torres buy the property, I said, and then he came in with a vision, right? A vision to change it significantly, to remove buildings out on the point, to integrate the whole thing into one real resort, to build, expand, as the case might be. I then said, we cannot have an investor come into Eleuthera, this part of Eleuthera, Gregory Town, where there is no other such investment, and fail. And therefore, we must get directly involved with what he's doing. We must give him the support he needs, and we must pay attention to what's happening here. And attention means looking at the airport. And when we came in, you saw the international flights arriving, and the airport needs to be upgraded because it plays a significant role with Harbour Island as a destination.
Vendors at Potters Key and Arawak Key are being urged to pay what they owe or risk losing their businesses. As Fern Carey tells us, Agriculture Minister V. Alfred Gray issued the ultimatum during a meeting at Pilgrim Baptist Church, offering a 2-week deadline to arrange payment on the collective debt of $500,000.
According to Agriculture and Fisheries Minister Alfred Gray, Arawak Key and Potters Key vendors owe $500,000 in outstanding lease payments, some dating back 20 years. It's an issue that dominated the Monday meeting between Minister Gray and the vendors, with the Agriculture Minister warning the group to pay what they owe or risk having their businesses shut down.
Effective very, very soon. If your leases are not brought current and you're not making any arrangement to fix it, we're going to close you down. Now, what's good for the goose has to be good for the gander. If you're not current, and I have the lists, so you can't tell me you are. If you're not current and you do not enter into some arrangement to fix it, I am going to have you closed for business.
Vendors acknowledge most of them are behind in paying their lease agreements. However, they explain they would be better able to clear their debt if a policy was put in place, allowing them to pay their leases every month rather than every 3 months or once a year, as they are now required to do. The minister agreed, noting that the policy will take effect in September of this year. Vendors also have 14 days to work out a payment plan to reduce their arrears.
You have to do your little part, whatever small way it is. Let's see you trying. You know, even if you can't pay the full amount this week, pay someone, I say this week, meaning this month, whatever the method of payment is. Because some weeks will be better than others, you agree? But let me see you doing something to show me you're willing.
Arawak Key vendors also highlighted some of their concerns, including vagrants and unclean bathrooms at the site, issues Minister Gray admitted will be addressed soon. He also applauded the vendors for partnering with the government to keep the area clean.
The people or the vendors on Arawak Key are doing much better in terms of cleanliness than the people at Porter's Key. But there is room for improvement. Because no matter how good you think you are, you can do better.
Farron Carey, ZNS News.
Education Minister the Honourable Jerome Fitzgerald inspected schools in the Northeastern Division this week, starting with Sandlands Primary School, C.I. Gibson and D.W. Davis Secondary Schools, and Palmdale Primary School. And with a budget of $4 million, the Ministry of Education is looking to have repairs complete in time for the start of school this fall. Cyan Thompson has this update.
Education Minister the Honourable Jerome Fitzgerald says so far so good as he inspected schools in the Northeastern Division on Monday. The purpose was to evaluate repairs and upgrades to public schools, ensuring that contractors are on schedule for the start of school.
So far, I'm pretty pleased with the level of workmanship that I see and the speed at which it's going. The scopes of work have pretty much been implemented, and based on what I see, it looks as if the works that were scoped will be done within the next 2 weeks.
Now repairs for schools began several weeks ago. They began not only here in New Providence, but on Grand Bahama and throughout the Family Islands. The minister told us that up to $4 million is being spent on these repairs.
This year, we spent about, we're going to spend about so far $4.5 million just on doing repairs. 3.3 of that is going to be in New Providence, 600 in Grand Bahama, and 600,000 throughout the Family Islands. We estimate that that's created about 800 jobs throughout the Bahamas during these couple of months.
The Education Minister has a deadline of August 18th for all repairs to be complete.
In the past, the works didn't start until towards the end of July, early August, so it really put a lot of pressure on the contractors. We were able to mobilize earlier this year.
Education officials plan on visiting the Northwestern School District come next week. Cyan Thompson, ZNS News.
The Bahamas continues to be a world ally in the fight against drug trafficking, and that commitment was further realized today as local and regional partners in the drug war gathered at police headquarters for the Regional Chemical Diversion Control Training Seminar. Stephen Gay was there.
Local and regional law enforcement agencies and health officials will meet for the next week at the Paul Farquharson Center for the Regional Chemical Diversion Control Training Seminar put on by the Ministry of National Security and the Inter-American Drug Abuse Control Commission. This seminar is geared toward training personnel in accepted practices when it comes to identifying and handling precursor chemicals used in the production of drugs like LSD and angel dust, chemicals that are common in most countries and used for a variety of everyday tasks. Minister of National Security, the Honourable Dr. Bernard Nottage, told delegates that the challenges associated with production, trafficking, use and abuse of narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances have become the great unifying factor for nations around the globe. It's why the government seeks to build on the Precursor Chemicals Act, which was enacted back in 2007.
The government of the Bahamas remains committed to developing effective enforcement strategies to combat the threats of illicit drug trafficking and precursor chemicals. We realize that this cannot be done in isolation. From a legislative standpoint, we seek to review and revise our laws as necessary to meet any new challenges within the Bahamas and in fulfillment of our global obligations.
Meanwhile, advisor to the Ministry of National Security, Missouri Sherman Peter, told ZNS News that local research indicates that there are no known laboratories producing these types of drugs in the country, which suggests that the Bahamas is being used as a transshipment point. This seminar will address ways to minimize the transshipment of precursor chemicals in bulk through our ports.
If you stop the chemicals, then how can they make the drugs? So you want to slow it down. The chemicals are really to make the drugs, these that they will be discussing today. So if you slow it down, then for sure it'll be more difficult for them to make the drugs. And that's why this is important. You don't want it passing through your ports. You don't want it passing through your airports. You want to make sure that you recognize it, you know what it is, you stop it, you stop somebody from making a batch.
Noting that the shipping industry is a significant player in the local economy, such scrutiny could be a hindrance to legitimate commerce. That's why local law enforcement agencies are involved in training.
If we stop that sort of thing flowing through our ports, we might be stopping legitimate commerce. You always have to keep that in mind. But what we're doing here today is that you'll have people from customs, from defense, and so on, so that we'll be able to recognize it and make sure that when it's passing through Freeport, or any other port for that matter, that we know what it is, we know who sent it, we know where it's going, and we know that it will not be diverted into making narcotic drugs and psychotropic substances.
The seminar wraps up at the end of the week. Stephen Gay, ZNS News.
Maybe looking for gold at the Olympics, but two young ladies have already claimed the treasure they were looking for. That story is after the break.